Vladimir Putin went to law school, but he never practiced law. His first job out of school was as a spy. He spent 15 years in the Soviet secret police, the KGB, including an assignment undercover in Germany. He's also been a college professor, a deputy mayor of St. Petersburg, and a top aide to President Boris Yeltsin. Hardly a household name, he became acting president when Yeltsin resigned at the end of 1999 and was elected in his own right 3 months later. Today, he's immensely popular, with an approval rating of over 70%.
Mr. President, I would like to ask some questions about you, because you are not too well known in our country. When you became president, there was some apprehension because you had been with the KGB. People thought that you were very authoritarian. They described you in somewhat scary terms. How would you describe yourself?
Well, I was not described by the people, but by mass media. And based on that information, people made their own conclusions, because the public loves to see some hot stuff, and so they created this image. I'm very pleased that as a result of my work, the perception of me has been changing. And we have a saying, you should judge about someone not by what he says about himself, but by what he does.
There was a series of interviews that you gave for a book, a very frank book, and you described yourself as calm, yes, intense. Your wife called you intense.
Well, she should be the judge of that. I think it is no point arguing with a woman.
You had a very difficult childhood, very cold where you were in a very small apartment with your family. Rats, you had to beat the rats off, yes? What effect did this kind of a childhood have on this man today?
Most importantly, what matters more is not the material conditions on my living, but the fact that I was loved. My parents loved me a lot, and I felt that at all times. And this feeling of love perhaps was the most important point that formed my character.
You know, even before you graduated from school, you wanted to work in intelligence. Now, most kids don't aspire to grow up to be a spy. You did. Why?
Well, there's no secret about that. You have to be honest about that. I was influenced by literature, movies. I didn't want to be a spy. I wanted to be useful to my country. And the profession of an intelligence officer does involve certain risks. There's an element of, romanticism. And so all this together led me to such a decision. I try not to regret anything, and I don't regret that decision of mine of many years ago. I have nothing to be ashamed of in my past. I was a successful intelligence officer and always worked for the good of my country.
I'm going to ask you a terrible question. Did you ever order anyone killed?
No. In fact, my work was more intellectual, political information gathering, analysis, and so forth, so thank God, nothing like that happened to me.
I have seen too many movies. You were the judo champion in Leningrad in 1976. And you have said judo is not just a sport, it is a philosophy. What did it teach you about winning over an opponent?
Well, the most important thing that this sport taught me is respect for your partner or opponent.
You will be coming to America with your wife?
Yes, if the plans stand. At least George invited me to come together with my wife, so I plan to take her along, yes.
America's first ladies play a certain public role. Does your wife play a public role here in your country?
Oh, our traditions are a little bit different from the American ones. My wife does not seek any public positions. In fact, I was elected president, not her. She is a very active person, a linguist, and today she gives a lot of attention to supporting the development of the Russian language.
President Putin, I know that you have been studying English for some months. Next week you come to America. Could you possibly give a message to the American people in English?
This is difficult for me, but I hope the visit to the United States is helpful to American people, to us, to Russia, to both countries. Thank you.
Good English. Thank you, Mr. President, for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.